In the vibrant city of Nairobi, where Range Rovers roared through traffic and brunch culture was a badge of social class, there lived a woman named Tasha. Beautiful, stylish, and unapologetically bold. She was the kind of woman who made heads turn the moment she stepped into a room. Her nails were always done, her hair laid to perfection, and her phone never stopped buzzing with notifications from Instagram DMs, WhatsApp chats, or shopping alerts. But what most people didn't know, at least not at first, was that Tasha's lifestyle was not sponsored by her hard work or business deals. It was funded by one man, Mr. Musa. He was old enough to be her father, or maybe even older, a wealthy businessman with grain temples, a villa in Karen, and offshore accounts she never dared to ask about. He found Tasha one night at an exclusive hotel lounge in Westlands. She was wearing a red satin dress that shimmered under the moonlight and sipping on a glass of wine she had not paid for. Musa introduced himself with quiet confidence and a gaze that lingered just long enough to make her heart flutter. He was polished, articulate, and had that magnetic air of a man who was used to getting what he wanted. After a couple of drinks, he offered to always take care of her, not in the vague, empty way other men had, but with the calm assurance of someone who had the means and the will to follow through. At the time, Tasha was still picking up the pieces of her last failed relationship, juggling long shifts at the salon she worked at, and barely making rent. So when Musa stepped in with his expensive cologne and promises of a better life, she let herself believe. From that moment on, her world shifted. From dull routines and whispered regrets to fine dining, impromptu weekend getaways, and whispered promises under silk sheets. It felt like a dream she did not dare question. Not yet. He gave her everything, not just the rent money or the random bundles of cash wrapped in black paper envelopes. He gave her comfort, daily rides in chauffeur driven cars, spontaneous trips to Diani, business trip flights to Dubai just to buy perfume, and silk robes she wore like second skin. He gave her a life where she never had to check price tags. If she pointed at it, it was hers. If she dreamt it, he made it real. She lived in a fully furnished apartment in Kilimani with floor to ceiling windows and a balcony view of the skyline. Chandelier lighting, a smart fridge that was always fully stocked, a 65-inch TV, a closet bursting with imported fashion, and an account balance that reset every Friday. He flew her to Dubai for breakfast and Paris for shopping therapy. She wore designer labels, carried genuine leather bags, and ate sushi on Tuesdays just because she could. Men admired her, women envied her, her friends asked her what she did for a living, and she'd only smile and say, I live well. He gave her an escape from the hustle. No job applications, no bus queues, no awkward interviews. She woke up at noon, scheduled her spa sessions, and updated her followers with quotes like, soft life or nothing. He gave her the illusion that it would last forever. Not in words, though. He never promised her eternity. But in the way he moved through her life, like he owned time. The way his money showed up before her worries could form. Whenever she brought up starting something for her own, he would say, don't stress, baby girl. I've got you. She believed it deeply, not because she was foolish, but because it was easy. The silk sheets, the champagne brunches, the weekends at the social house, they wrapped her like a warm lie. She stopped asking questions. She stopped planning ahead. She stopped imagining life without him. But when everything is handed to you in gift bags and bank transfers, the future feels like a detail someone else will handle. Every time Musa sent her money, she spent it on wigs, designer shoes, vacations, and spontaneous spa dates. She convinced herself that the good life would never end. Why plan for tomorrow when today was perfect? Until it wasn't. Musa died suddenly. A heart attack, they said. It happened in his sleep. One moment, he was texting her about a Maldives trip. The next, he was gone. Just like that. At first, Tasha didn't panic. Grief had not sunk in. Not really. Shock had a strange way of making everything feel distant, like watching your own life play out on someone else's screen. The news had reached her through a short, clipped message from one of his drivers. Musa is dead. She blinked at her phone for a full minute, rereading the text like it would rearrange itself into something softer, something reversible. But the truth was there, cold, abrupt, and final. And still, Tasha did not panic. Why would she? She was his girl. Not one of those side flings he flew in and out of his life like weekend getaways. She knew the name of his grandkids. She had even met his business partners. His driver called her Madame. His personal chef even asked her how she liked her fish grilled. She was the one he flew to the Maldives for her birthday. The one who picked out his linen shirts when they went shopping in Santon. They had a rhythm, a language. She knew how he liked his eggs. In her mind, there was something. A fallback, a clause, a hidden key. Maybe he had left her a secret bank account, just in case. Maybe the lease for her apartment would magically transfer into her name. Maybe, just maybe, there was a will, and in it, her name would be nestled quietly between all the others. She was not greedy. She just believed she had earned something. Not just for her presence, but for the time, the loyalty, the pretending. She remembered the times she had to smile through dinners with men 3 times her age, the times she had bitten her tongue when he introduced her as a friend from work to people who were not supposed to know, the hours she had spent waiting in the car while he visited his wife, who had never even known Tasha existed. She remembered being scolded for posting a selfie with a glass of champagne in his living room. He said, "People will recognize the furniture, Tasha. Be smart." And she was. She had learned to crop, blur, and remove geotags. She was discreet, loyal, available. Surely he had not forgotten that. Surely, somewhere between the golf tournaments and business flights, he had made a note. Tasha deserved something. And so, she waited. Waited for a lawyer to call. For the driver to show up with an envelope. For an account to light up with funds from an unknown source. She waited, but no one called. No letter came. No keys, no passwords, not even a goodbye. And slowly, the silence spread like a cold draft beneath the door of a life she thought was hers. Reality arrived fast and brutally. Musa's real family, his wife and grown children, collected everything. The concierge at the high rise no longer smiled with the same warmth. She was just another tenant now. The landlord's polite reminders turned into firm notices. Her world unraveled. The friends who once gushed over her Instagram stories stopped picking her calls. Some even laughed behind her back. Her DMs dried up. Her designer bags could not pay her rent. And for the first time in years, Tasha stood before a mirror and realized she had no plan, no cushion, no one. No late night calls, no dinner reservations, no incoming alerts from his assistant with travel itineraries. She tried reaching out to old friends for gigs, even offered to model for local brands. But Nairobi was harsh. People remembered the pride, not the struggle. She took public transport for the first time in years. She stopped posting online. There was nothing to show, just stillness. And yet, in that silence, something shifted. Not immediately, not in some dramatic, life changing epiphany kind of way. At first, it was just the sound of her own breath at night. She began to notice things she had ignored before: the chipped nail polish, the unopened books that sat on the shelf, more for aesthetic than interest. The, the silence in her inbox, no brand deals, no job offers, just promotional spam from boutiques she could not afford anymore. For the first time in years, she picked up her own suitcase, not for a sponsored trip or a paid escape, but to leave the apartment she could no longer afford. She sold the handbags first, then the shoes, then the jewelry he had bought her in Dubai. Each item she sold had to let go, like giving away pieces of a life that had once sparkled so loudly it drowned her own voice. But in that letting go, something else emerged: clarity. She remembered the version of herself before the luxury, before the filtered selfies and the fake friendships. The girl who once stayed up all night editing YouTube videos for a channel that barely had 300 subscribers and worked in a salon tirelessly. The one who used to scribble business ideas in a tattered notebook that she no longer knew where she kept. She started taking online courses. She learned about branding, content creation, and social media strategy. She had unknowingly sharpened during her years of curating a perfect life. Only now she turned those skills into something that paid. She pitched herself to small businesses, ran Instagram pages for beauty brands, and even taught others how to build personal brand with authenticity. The money was not much at first, but it was hers, and tracked and valued. And slowly, she began again, not for the audience, but for herself. She did not rise overnight. There were days the hunger returned, sometimes in her belly, other times in her pride. But this time, the hunger was different. It was not for champagne or hashtags. It was for peace, stability, self worth, the kind of soft life she could build with her own two hands, quiet, real, and hers. 6 months later, she moved into a modest one bedroom apartment. No chandeliers, no imported candles, but peace. She was finally building something of her own. Tasha still had the same beauty, the same charm, but now she carried a different kind of confidence, one rooted in survival, not sponsorship. She still enjoyed soft things, but now she was learning to be the one who could provide for them herself. And every time she passed the luxury mall in Westlands or saw another girl being whisked away by a man in a big car, she did not judge, but she remembered. The soft life is sweet until it's taken away. But what's truly powerful is the kind you build for yourself.